Welcome back to another video. Today, I'm going to be talking about Natdex again. It's in a similar vein to what I was doing with SV the other day, where I did a VR video, but I did a little bit differently than I have in the past. Um, Basically, going down through S for like C tier or whatever, and then ordering it that way, as opposed to like the tier 1 through 5 system, which I expressed my discontentment with. Um, but today we're talking about Natdex. Now, full disclosure, I have not really thought about applying this like way of thinking about the VR to Natdex before, so this is basically going to be entirely from scratch. Um, I'm not really sure how this is going to turn out, but um, I think it's an interesting subject to talk about, especially right now. Natdex is kind of at a point of inflection, I'd say. We've just finished Derby. We're like a month or two out from Natdex Premier League, which will be the next big tournament featuring Natdex doubles. Um, and then in addition, we are in the midst of Zygarde suspect voting, so there is a non-zero chance the tier could look very, very different tomorrow. So, without further ado, let's get into it. I'm also joined by Shister, maybe Penter, and even
Yay!
more maybe someone who has no idea
Yo,
what Natdex is and probably doesn't even like Natdex anyway. And you know what? That's based, but he's played Reg Age, so we get to laugh at his suffering when he figures out the format's unplayable. Okay, so let's start out with the S tier. So I have S plus here, but I'm going to tell you right now, we do not need this shit. Um, and the format's not doesn't have any like demon Pokemon that's like that strong. However, I don't think anyone's really going to be surprised by what we put in S tier here. At least not really. Um, the general consensus is for this format's history has always been that like Rillaboom is like the number one mod. I've kind of disagreed with that at like various points in time. I'm Rillaboom's number one hater. I think Glide nerfed is like one of the worst moves in the game. Um, but it's an excellent utility Pokemon, and we've seen an immense amount of Zygarde usage in this latest Doubles Derby tournament, right? We can go pull up the usage stats for that. Do we even have it? Actually, we don't even have it. But through like the first couple of weeks of like the usage stats, which are what we have currently, Zygarde was like the number two
SMB
most used
posted
Pokemon.
those.
I could grab the usage if you want.
All right, bet that'd be appreciated. Um, so yes, Zygarde is like being spammed probably the most it's ever been spammed, and it's been spammed for a long time. Um, and so, in that context, that
I
makes
believe off
Rillaboom.
of memory. I believe off of memory, when SMB posted the first 4 weeks usage stats, Rillaboom was at 50% use rate, and Zygarde was in second place at like 37%.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Um, so yeah, in our first spot on here, we're gonna put Rillaboom. Um, Not really a surprise to anyone, I think. Very excellent Pokemon. Fake Out, U-Turn, Woodhammer, Glide. Is the standard set with AV. Can also be more creative with it. I had a team that was like Gracium Z for a long time, but then like it wasn't funny enough, so I changed it. Um, but generally AV, excellent utility mod. Um, and you can also run stuff like Choice Band or Miracle Seed. But definitely AV is like the set that makes it like S tier, right? Um, and so now that we've have this, the
Run high
question is there
horsepower.
anything else that like is an S tier specifically? Not talking about S minus yet, just S. What are your thoughts on this, Shister?
We talked a little bit before. I'm not 100% on this being where I would put Jirachi. I am somewhat confident that I could put Zygarde here. I really do think it's that oppressive right now.
I would agree. I think Zygarde is like S plus. Like it could. I feel like I could put it on any team.
Yeah, I agree. And for that reason, I put in Zygarde in S. This Pokemon is absurd, quite frankly. I mean, this Pokemon is splashable in a way that Rillaboom is not. Zygarde simply has spread ground type coverage that hits flying types. And now obviously that's what makes it good in every other doubles generation. You slap on a choice band, you click Thousand Arrows, blah 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 blah. And that's a very good set. And in this format, ground is actually a really excellent offensive type. There's a number of different fairies you can use next to your ground type, and that makes ground especially strong because ground fairy is pretty immense offensive coverage. And that's kind of actually a formula I've been like using for a lot of my games recently. Is just ground plus fairy because Zygarde is just that good, and it can pair with stuff like Fluttermane, Tapu Fini, Mega Gardevoir, any of those mons. It complements extremely well with, and that's just the choice band set. But what really makes Zygarde broken, its ability to be a setup sweeper with Clear Amulet, Coil, or Dragon Dance. Um, and with
Oil for
Terra,
Trick
it's very
Room or
difficult to
slower
stop that
balance
mon.
teams. And like Coil fits on Trick Room teams. It's one of the best ways to stack, which has risen in the meta recently. And it fits on some slower balance teams that have a Trick Room mode. And then Dragon Dance can just absolutely clean everything in the format if it really wants to, if you put it on the right team. And then Bandit's just, oh look, I want something broken that can fill. Here we go. That goes on my Tailwind team. It eats random hits and it kills random things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Um, and to be perfectly honest, I think this is probably where I'd leave S. I think this is like the clear top two mons in the format. There's a couple of things that are kind of close, but I'd say these two are like really what the metagame is right now. Um, like Rillaboom is just everywhere.
I think
Zygarde's
the
just everywhere.
closest is probably like I would see Kang maybe like S minus or S, but
Yeah,
I may like think it's better than y'all do.
I
That is
agree that
certainly a
King
take that
is.
I do not agree with.
I think King is like very very good. Um, the issue is like
And
it has an opportunity cost that Rillaboom and Zygarde don't
yeah,
have, so it's not quite
that's
as like
like
splashable. Um, but I think yeah, I'm gonna move down to S minus now. Um, for me, mons that stick out around here are probably like Jirachi. Jirachi plays very excellently with Zygarde with the setup sets, but it can really be used with any setup like sweeper. Um, I don't think it's quite as strong as a lot of other people do. I think it's a very excellent tool, but like there are a lot of teams that you like. It has enough, just it has just enough weaknesses that there are like a fair number of teams that you don't really want to stick it on. Even despite the fact it has like follow me on a Pokemon with 600 BST. Um, Thoughts on
it
Jirachi in
certainly
S
doesn't
minus?
feel like as splashable, but I think it's like really crazy on the teams it's good on.
I'm almost inclined to put it in A plus tier because, quite frankly, I don't think it matches up to the two ghosts that I would put in S minus because those two pressure it and are very good at pressuring the mons that Jirachi is most commonly associated with. And I
Mhm.
do think that the steel slot is a lot more contested now with Stack Attacka being as good as it is, and King Gambit still being a little bit in the background. Sometimes I really don't want Jirachi on my team because it conflicts with those two mons that I often want a redirector for or something else to support them.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Um, we'll kind of wait on the usage stats a little bit, but I think for now I'm going to stick Fluttermane in S minus. I think this is the more splashable ghost type. Um, I think Marshadow is obviously like very very strong, uh, and I would prefer if it was not in the metagame. But I think Fluttermane is like has more utility between like the various different sets it can have. It can be like Icy Wind support. Big Sash is a really great set that really like lets you play the game pretty consistently, um, facing off against stuff like Marshadow or Mence with a little bit extra backup. Um, Very excellent mod. I don't really think like the like more offensive spec sets or like booster special attack are very helpful. I think you want to be like as fast as possible with this mon, and then like try to like eke out as much survivability as possible. Whether if that's like a sash or just like fair amount of like bulk investment on like booster energy. Um, but this Pokemon is really excellent, and it pairs very well with Zygarde because, like I mentioned, Fairy Ground. Um, and there's a lot of things in this format that you can use to enable your Flutter, make it like last for a lot longer than it feels like it should be able to. Um, all right, I think this is where starts to get a little bit tricky for me. I think I could realistically see Marsh here. I could see King here, and I could maybe even see Mence here.
I definitely don't see men's here anymore after the last couple of weeks. I think it's fallen quite a bit since before Derby started. It has not been used nearly as much as some of the other megas that have been around, and it doesn't match up as well into the metagame as it has with. I would say Fluttermane has been a little bit more useful as a threat, which shuts it out. Chien Pao is still all over the place for dealing with Zygarde. And the main mons in the top tier at Fishes, Marsh, and Rillaboom really just haven't had that much of an issue getting around it with some of the partners that have been rising up in the format. Like that, I don't remember who made it, but that Stack Attacka Zygarde Hard Room team was a really excellent example to me of this is how a team can use the two main mons that are at the top of the list that Mence is fishing for and completely subvert Men's counterplay because it was running Stack, Mega Gardevoir, and Zygarde, and Incineroar with Rillaboom and Marshadow, and that team has been absolutely excellent. I use it to do Suspect Rex. So I think there's been a couple of metagame shifts that don't really favor Salamence as much.
I mean, I'm inclined to agree, but I still think it's like the most
I
broken
think
mega.
there's enough trick room.
I think it's very easy for like teams that have Mence to like compensate um, for Mence's weaknesses. However, I do think it's not an S minus on. Uh, just trying to find some replays here. So,
My personal opinion of the format is that none of the megas are tier 1/S tier.
yeah, I think so. I think King is probably the closest, but I think I'd probably put at the top of A plus. Um,
Yeah. I know some players like Nito have put Salamence even further down than I just said, saying
yeah,
it
but
barely
I
cuts
would
like top
probably
10.
disagree with that. That
I
it's a top five one. I think.
I
I
think
think.
I'm agree with Nito, but
I
I
don't know.
think we both like run teams that are just good into it.
Yeah, there's definitely like some team styles that are like
Like
detrimental to Mence, but I think the fact that those teams even exist is a response to Mence, if that makes sense.
Well,
Um, I
I'm I would be inclined to
I feel like
respect
that
that opinion
Snow
if I
would be
wasn't.
good with or without Mints.
I disagree. I don't even think Snow is good now, to be honest.
I don't respect Snow at all in this
Okay,
format.
well,
Well, okay, I'm hating a little bit too
My
extensively there, but I don't think it's like a top five archetype, if that makes sense. It's definitely like something you could use, but I've only seen like two effective Snow teams. Um, and then
because
we're
my
doing like
bigger
there's
issue with
like
Mence
okay, I think that
is
there's a lot that you can use because people are using like I don't know. I was saying that because I use Snow and
my
and like Arcaludon and stuff that Mints.
okay. My issue here is I'm looking at the ones that are in tier 2 and tier 3 right now, and I can pretty well say that more of them would like to face Mence than not face it. Despite Mence's absurd power, most of them are perfectly fine into it.
The only mons I would want to face Ments with in tier 3 are Stack, Guitar, and Glamora.
This
And not even really Glamora, because I think one of the better med sets is actually Hydro Pump.
Now
um,
that's a set that I just haven't seen. So
like the one thing that looking at like the usage, it looks like Mince is mainly good into like Rillaboom,
oh yeah, Penter posted the
like
usage stats.
green
You can pull that
one,
screenshot up.
and voice text.
Yeah, Mens didn't even cut top 10 usage.
yeah, this is interesting, yeah. But I definitely do think the top
But
3
I
are like
don't think it's because it's
Fluttermane,
bad. It's
Zygarde,
just
Rilla. Yeah, see, I'm just thinking, I don't think I see something I would put in S minus besides Jirachi. Hmm. I'm gonna stick Jirachi in S minus. I think the mod is just fundamentally really good. Um,
This is fair.
and it has a lot of
Despite my argument
flexibility.
for against it's the only other mon that I could really viably put here.
Yeah. And I think it's like a cut above like the other mods we've been talking about. Alright. Now is where I think it starts to open up a little bit more. These like we have this top 4, and I mean I've kind of thought about the metagame this way for a while with the uses like the top ones. Um Now I think here I would say I think like the next mods for me would be like Hang and Ments. Um we've already
Yeah.
talked a lot about Ments. Um hmm. I don't really want to focus too much on the usage stats because, quite frankly, I don't think like I was not really impressed with
Some
the majority of teams in this tournament. Um,
yeah,
but
some of the mons on this list are outsourced in their usage.
yeah, yeah. Um,
it's all
I
the
think
stack.
I'm gonna drop Kangaskhan here. I think. Um,
I I I genuinely would put my A plus tier as Kang, Mence, and Pow, and Marth after Pow. I think those four
I
are
think
like huge,
that's
huge
reasonable.
into this metagame.
yeah, I agree. I think Salamence here. Bro, I don't even know if I'm spelling Kangaskhan right. Pause.
Oh,
Okay.
Kang has really pulled up to this metagame and said, "Hey, Coil Zygarde, I don't care that you're boosting your defense. Die."
Yeah, Seismic Toss King is really an excellent one.
Yep.
Um, there's so much that struggles to deal with that. It's honestly like really impressive how much like progress you always get out of this mod. Um, let's see.
It's also one of the best ways to deal with stack
Mhm.
IMO.
Yeah, Stack has a
It's. I feel like
Unless
I could
unless stack
slightly
does
negative
Gyarados,
just
but
stick it like if I don't have a mega on a team, it will just go there. Okay.
Here's a Kangaskhan team. I think I've seen this a couple times. At least something similar. Um,
I know I had a really good replay where I
Oh, the
had Kang with Transform U,
redirection.
and Kang just absolutely wrecked shit.
but yeah, this Pokemon just gets so much progress, and almost in like pretty much every game between like the fake out support and like Seismic Toss.
I think
As
I think an
stat
underrated
arc.
part I think an underrated part of Kang is that I feel like Power Up Punch is actually really good right now because with so much Clear Amulet Zygarde around, people have been foregoing Intimidate more and more,
Like, look at this
especially
game.
with Stack also ignoring
Kangaskhan has
it.
already taken like the equivalent of like 2 Mons full HP, and it hasn't taken any damage. This is turn 5. Like,
Our Caledon will do nothing.
this Pokemon is just excellent.
I do think that Power Up Punch Kang is very good right now
I think it's good
because
as
they're
well,
they're
but I don't think it's as splashable as Seismic Toss is. Seismic Toss hits on
definitely
almost
not
every
as
team.
splashable, but it adds some dimension to the Mon that I think is really significant when putting it over Salamence here.
Mm-hmm. Look at my Natdex builder really quickly here. Because I'm thinking about like what you mentioned about POW. I'm not sure if I have enough. If I'm, I think POW is very good, but I don't think I quite have it in A plus. Let's see.
Maybe not. My thing with POW is that almost every Mon on the list so far has to respect POW in some way, and with so much Rillaboom use, POW's really taken advantage of the metagame. And I think in Natdex in particular, it gets a lot more value out of being such a good ice spinner user
That's true.
because that messes with a lot of teams. Being faster than Marsh is also very nice in this metagame.
It also pairs really well with like Zygarde as well. Um,
Yeah, seen some absurd stuff with these two put together. This team that Guilt made absolutely ruined my test games for a week. Like these two would just sit in the back of the team and just absolutely clean stuff up with E-Speed and Sucker if I didn't have a way to like deny priority.
mhm.
I think the metagame's really shifted in Pal's favor, even if it is running the same things it always has. Well, there has been a little bit of Dark Z POW that's been innovated just so that it can have a non-sucker punch dark type attack, which has really caught me off guard a few times, and it's surprising how often it gets value in games. IMO.
Yeah. Hmm. I just don't. I don't see it quite at that level. I don't think. I think I have it
But you
like the best mod in A. I'd say because I
would you
think I'm
put
here's
Marsh
where I put
next then?
Marsh.
Yeah.
Uh, Marshadow is kind of interesting. Let's see here. It was ninth in usage. Um, this Pokemon is very, very threatening in the builder. I think there's only like the only one that exerts more pressure in the builder. I think is like Zygarde. In the actual like games, like it's Marshadow's never the one that like sweeps you or anything, right? Because it's not. It doesn't have enough bulk to like completely run over your team or whatever. And it often like
And it doesn't have a spread move.
trades like relatively early on. Um, but the thing is, like, it just gets so much value. It's so fast. It pressures like a lot of good mons with like Shadow Sneak, and it also matches up really well into like Jirachi plus Zygarde. Um, if you're running like Coil or whatever, because not only is Marshadow have Spectral Thief to like steal the stats away from Zygarde, it also hits the redirector for super effective damage. And then obviously Ghost Fighting is unresisted, apart from the Pokemon that shall not be named. And it's just a very threatening offensive Pokemon if your team does not have like a good flying type, I think. Um, but that's like the main thing
Flying type
that
or
is why I like Med so
expanding
much is
force
that
user.
Med's like is one of the better mons into Marshadow. It probably has the most favorable matchup into Marshadow of anything like of the top like lists here, I'd say. Rillaboom's also pretty good because just has enough raw defense to like eat a hit and hit it back. Um,
Woodhammer knocks it
yeah,
out. Very fun. Very fun to click.
but it's a very Marshadow is one of the Pokemon I think about the most when I'm team building right now. Um, More so than Pow. Pow is like POW has a lot of good targets, but the thing is, like, there's usually only like one or two of them on a team. Um, whereas like Marshadow just like consistently outputs like large amounts of damage into like entire teams. Um, POW is a little bit. I just think POW is a little bit more punishable with your actual play than
Yeah,
Marshadow is.
yeah, I think I hyped it up a little bit too much. I would probably differentiate it just a little bit here.
All right, so is there anything else we put in A plus? Um, I don't think
Unless
I
you want to
would.
put the stack agenda. But I do not want to put the stack agenda on here.
This is true. I'd say I think Ensign's like really good in this format. I think AV Ensign is good enough that I'd almost consider it here. Um, when I think about Mons, I'm using a lot. Um, I'll just pull up some of my like more recent teams I've brought to stuff. I
I
use
do
this
really
for
like
suspect laddering.
Ensign with the AV set. My issue with it is that there are a few teams in Derby that I actually found it had almost no value in. Mostly the stack shit. It can't do anything about that.
Yeah,
So I don't think it has the consistency of the rest of the A plus mons.
that's fair. I'm gonna just put an A plus though. I think. Um, I definitely think I'm trying to like order this a little bit more. I'm thinking about ordering it more than I did with the FV video. Because I think Kangaskhan and Ensign are close enough to me as like the best fake out mons besides Rilla that I would want to put them in the same tier. Because the thing I like about Ensign so much,
That's like crazy to me.
I think it's just I don't consider any Ensign set other than AV to be very good in this format. Um, but I think AV is just so nice because there's a lot of teams, um, less so than like these like top mons, right? If you're looking at the top mons, then okay, Ensign it's like good into Rilla, obviously, good into Jirachi,
Good at good
and
into
then
Flutter, to be honest.
yeah, it's good into
Puts
Flutter
Flutter
if you're
puts.
carrying AV.
Mm.
But I think where this mod like really shines, especially with like AV, is like if you look at like the lower um, tier mons we're going to be talking about soon. Um, I think it has generally good matchups into stuff like Torn, Pow,
I think AV is really good. Yeah,
and like
AV is really good to Sun.
yeah, it's really like the Sun plus Flutter plus Chu stuff that like Ensign can like absolutely carry a team. And they're often like there's so much Rillaboom going around that it's like the best switch into Rilla in the format. Um, and also like it can help mitigate some of the other mods as well. Like it obviously doesn't want to switch into Marsh, but like if you get the Intimidate drop on it, then there's a lot of Marsh calcs that are actually like more reasonable at -1. Like as long as you play carefully with it, right? Um, and then I just think like AV is such a great pivot. Like you can also run like stuff like Wisp, which I think is pretty good. Um, but I like AV so much because U-turn's a kind of a nice pivot move to have when there's like clear amulet mons around because you get to have your pivot move, but you can click it into anything. Um, which I think is like an underrated aspect of like the AV set. Um, okay, I think that's where I'd
What
call
kind
A
of teams are
plus.
you running AV on? Can I ask? Like,
Yeah.
Oops, my
So here's one team I brought to seasonal, um, which had like it was Coil Zygarde plus Mega
like
Venusaur. That was kind of the team. Um, I just slotted AV on this because I wanted like a little bit more of like a backbone into stuff like Flutter Sun, um, because it was like pretty difficult to handle otherwise. Zygarde's pretty good into that stuff as well, but like AV Instant is just like such a surefire way to handle stuff like Zard Y plus Flutter if you ever queue into that. Um, and then obviously like I just wanted like Intimidate next to my setup Pokemon. Um, and then Let's see, what else
The
do we have
Dark
instant on?
EMC Incineroar.
See, I use it a lot on rain because I think it's
Um,
Uh, you want to show the Z Dark Incineroar set that you used early on? Because I think that
no,
set is pretty decent too.
lol. Did you use it in anything?
Uh, I use it in a lot of test games
I don't think I
just to
brought it
see
for
if
anything.
I didn't bring it because I had other ideas that didn't really use Incineroar on the team in the first place for most of my games.
Yeah.
But it was really, really useful in testing to pressure people.
All right, but I think this is my plus tier. I don't think putting power or putting instant here is unreasonable at all. Um, okay, so now we're talking about A. I think Pal belongs here. Probably Bolt probably belongs here. I think Volcanion probably belongs here.
Or Feeny.
Yeah, Feeny probably as well. Stack, I think. But I think the first one I'm going to put is Pal because I do think this mon has like really excellent matchups and to like a lot of the mons higher up. Um, we talked about this already, obviously, but ice coverage is really nice when like two of the best mons of the tier are like obviously Rilla plus Zygarde, but then also like Ments, and then like the fighting coverage can be used into other things that are common, like Kangaskhan or like Incid. So this
Stack.
Pokemon is very good.
how next to like Van Zygarde is crazy.
Yeah, that's like the
Like,
premier like physical offense in this tier. I'd say is Pal plus Zygarde. And it's even stronger because you get to use other stuff on it too. Like you can have like your Rillaboom looking like line with like the sort of ruin drop, or like Marshadow you can also fit. Um, so it really enables a lot of like offensive mons, but it also has really excellent like matchups. But I think the big thing is just it has like so many mons to enable in this format um, that, to be perfectly honest, don't really exist in SV as much. Um, okay, then I think I'd also put Stack Attacker here. Um, this Pokemon has was rose to like a lot of usage, especially during Derby. Um, it's just really excellent at like it's really excellent matchups into stuff like Flutter, um, Ments, and really just like anything like more offensive, right? It also has access to Terra and Clear Amulet, which are huge like boosts for it. Because when Stack Attacker has an actual typing and not like Steel Rock, it's so much harder to like deal with it. I have a whole video up on the channel talking about the rise of Stack Attack in this format. Um, but I think of it kind of similar to maybe like POW. It has like it's being used a lot. It has just for nice matchups right now. And that's really why I think we're seeing so much of it. Um, thoughts on Stack Attacker here?
Nothing to add.
Okay.
Beautiful mon. Kind of feels like how it feels to fight Ice Rider and Rage. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, there's a like those two mons are kind of similar in the fact that there's not a lot of like Trick Room setters that are like self sufficient. So Stack Attack is definitely one of those setters, and that means you can fit it on like so many teams. We've seen Stack Attack just to be honest, like a really like unprecedented variety of teams for like a Trick Room on. We saw it on like Sun Stack Attack was genuinely like somewhat common archetype because it would click Heat Crash. And then it would fit on like other stuff like Gardevoir with like Trick Room as well, and then we just saw it on so many different archetypes. Um, all right, and then also in A, um, I probably would put Feeny here. I think the monsters. I'm gonna put Torn. I kind of forgot about Torn. Haven't discussed it so far, but it's like the best Tailwind clicker. It's not as crazy, I think, as
Schrodinger's
an
item slot.
yeah.
That's what I'll call this mon.
It's like it's very good because obviously you have like so many things that like you could use Prankster Tailwind with, right? Um, I'm actually wondering if I want to put this up in A plus.
My my instinct is to not put it up a little bit higher because Tailwind as a whole has seen a little bit less usage since
Yeah,
Stack
that's
has
true.
made Trick Room so much stronger. It's given this mon a little bit more pause before just clicking something like Z Bleakwin.
Yeah. You know what? That's fair. I'll leave it here. Yeah, I'll leave it here. Okay, but yeah, Torn very excellent. It does what it does in SV. There's other Tailwind clickers here that are like stronger. I think like Mets is an excellent Tailwind clicker, um, which is like one of the main reasons like we even see Mets use really. But Torn is still great for Prankster Tailwind. This might be one of the mons I'm like underselling, but keep in mind all the Pokemon we've talked about so far are really excellent choices in this metagame. Um, and there's a lot of them. I think if you compare like what we had discussed by this point in like the Natdex or like in the SB video, like I don't think we had nearly this many mons. Um, okay,
And we're still going because Tapu Fini's next.
yeah, Tapu Fini. This is
You go
this
the
is like
absolute goat of balanced metagame.
this Pokemon is so good. This is like one of my favorite Pokemon to use of all time. And it can't quite. It's not as great as it is in like SM or SS, but this Pokemon is still very good. Misty Terrain gives you so much value in so many ways, right? You could use it to like block status. You could use it for like, well, you can use it with some of the Dragon types that like they don't use Dragon moves like Zygarde, right? And it enables them because then like opposing Dragon types,
You can't get
their Draco doesn't KO anymore, and I think that's like really funny. Um,
the pain of using Raging Bolt in this format because of this guy.
yeah, and then like you use Misty Seed. You don't really see too much of that, but you can also use that. Um, and then obviously we
Run
have like
specs, run cloak, run leftovers, run scarf.
yeah, there's so many sets. We've seen a lot of like offensive like Specs Fini, I think historically in this format, but I've used like Combines a fair amount recently. I had like both my um, seasonal games against Iceberg. Fini just like absolutely carried me out of positions where like other if I had any other mon in that slot, I would have lost the game. Um, in this game, it like I got one combine boost and it completely soloed a side spam team. Like the team kind of just folds from here. Um, and in the other game, I used Cloak, which didn't actually come into play, but like it basically became unkillable after getting like multiple boosts up in Terrain. So Terrain is like a great like buff for like the setup set as well, which we haven't seen as much of. But if you're watching this, this is your call to use more Combine Tapu Fini because it's absolutely broken. Um, there's so many ways to like support it now, and Terra is really like a great get out of jail free card for it. Um, okay,
Over club for snarl immunity.
yeah, and then also you can do like Scarf Trick too, funny Pokemon, and you can also do like more supporting stuff to support stuff like Zygarde. But I anticipate that set will not be as used like once Zygarde goes because
I'll say this about the scarf set. This is a PSA. Please run Terra Fairy. Boost your Moonblast so it actually kills things. It's so worth it. Please do it.
agree, and that's also just I'd say it's like the best water type. It's kind of up there with Volcanion. What are our thoughts on Volcanion? Because I feel like we could put it in A or A minus.
This is like how much we believe in the mon because for whatever reason it has not seen as nearly as much use in the format lately as I think it should be. Like it's down in 20th, and I don't think that's correct at all.
It's actually really interesting because for a long time the Natdex player base is like really hyped up Volcanion. But I do think
I
Raging
remember
Bolt is
seeing
what I'm
that
going to
guy
put
in
here.
tier 1. Yeah. I've used more Bolt than Volcanion, unfortunately, and I think a big part of that is Zygarde has become God, and I can't even check it with Volcanion as consistently as I would be able to because it's running 3 different sets. Help.
Right. Wisp Volcania is still very strong, but I think generally, like, Raging Bolt is just an excellent Pokemon. Draco to pick off, like, stuff like Mega Meds. Like, if you have a Bolt, your Meds matchup is so much better because you have a way to remove it, and you can also switch in on it, unless it's running some psychotic, like, Draco Meteor set or whatever. But, um, yeah,
That's Torn
pretty
switching
excellent
into format,
matchups. Good typing.
aside
Dragon
from
typing is
Slack.
appreciated. Um, and yeah, I could honestly put it like I could see it towards the top of A, but I think this is fair. I personally think Tapu Fini is really, really good right now. Um, but all these Pokemon again are like approximately equal in viability, I'd say. Um, okay, I think that's probably where I'd call it for A. Let me look at the usage stats, make sure I'm not overlooking anything too crazy. Um, yeah, we've looked at all the top 10, um, and plus a little more. All right, let's talk about A minus. Okay,
I actually think Zard belongs here. I might be crazy for saying that, but I think Zard is fucking crazy right now.
Zard was the next one I was going to mention, but I was going to put it in the top of A minus. But I could see it here as
Yeah.
well.
No, I was thinking A minus.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, Charizard Mega Y is so good. This is, for context, when um, Natdex first released, like, I did not intend for that misspelling. Please, no one notice that. Okay. Um, but
Yarzard.
when Natdex first released, like, Zard was like one of the first mons that was like really looked at because obviously we have all the Protomons um, that it combos with so well. Um, and it does still do that, right? Um, but over time, like the metagame slowed down, Zygarde got used more, and we haven't. Everyone agreed Charizard was good, but like it wasn't being used quite as much. But we've really seen a lot of it this Derby, and I think it performed very, very well. Um, one of the better performances I've seen out of it in a while, sitting here at 13 in usage. So
This mod has benefited so much from Volcanic falling off a bit.
yeah, I agree. And pairing it, I think what's really helped it is like people have been using it with like Raging Bolt more because we haven't really had like
Multi-stack.
a. This was like one of the first like major team tours we had where like Raging Bolt was actually a thing in Natdex. Because really the last biggest one I'd say was we had like World Cup, but that was a little bit smaller. So I think like this was like the first tour that really came close to like NDPL, and I think it honestly passed it because we had so much more games. Um, in terms of significance for the tier. And so yeah, we've seen a lot of like Raging Bolt plus Zard Y, and those two obviously pair very well together. I think Raging Bolt might honestly be the best Sun abuser on that team. Um, Fluttermane's obviously up there too. I said I really like right now is like pairing like Sash Fluttermane with like booster speed with Charizard because you get that Icy Wind support, and then you can invest your Charizard a little bit more in bulk. Um, I think my
That was
favorite
my
team
Scarf Fluttermane set on Sun.
I brought a lot of teams I liked in Derby, but I'd say I brought this Sun team, and this might be my favorite. I paired Mega Charizard with a Sash Fluttermane, right? I didn't actually run any bulk on this one just because this team was like very like HO heavy, and I didn't really think that I was getting much out of the bulk. You could run Scorching Sands to hit stack, which like obviously is not great. Your stack massive isn't great, but the thing is like you kind of pin it between like Scorching Sands and Heat Wave unless they're like Terra Fire, which is obviously a decent set. Um, but like you also occasionally see like Terra Grass or whatever. But Scorching Sands plus like Heat Wave hits like pretty much a lot of the Terra types. Because if they don't resist fire, then like they're taking a lot from Heatwave. And then I actually paired it with Choice
You're
Band.
usually dying.
I paired it with Choice Band, Booster Speed, Gouging Fire with Earthquake. And this was like really fun to use next to Zard Y. Because it gave me so much like additional offensive pressure. And so this was a team that really made me think highly of Zard. Anything else here? I think we talked a fair about it.
I think my thing for putting Zard so high on this list, aside from everything you mentioned and the Derby stuff that happened with it, just for me personally, Zard Sun was the biggest pressure on my builder out of anything in the format. It was like the thing that kept on ruining me in test games and making me reconsider certain slots on my teams. It is
Yeah,
very,
fair.
very threatening right now with Bolt.
Yeah. My one loss was actually to Stack Attacka plus Zard. Granted, that matchup was much harder for me because I like forgot. Like, I think that actually illustrates an interesting point because what made that game very difficult for me and honestly like pretty much unwinnable was I actually forgot to like give my mods like Terra types. So I was sitting here with like Terra Steel Jirachi, so my Jirachi was completely useless. But I think it illustrates an interesting point. I think a lot of teams like need Terra available to really handle the Zard Y offense teams because they're that strong. Um, and I use a lot of like AV instants, so that's why I wasn't really like too worried about it most weeks. But yeah, I think it's a good one right now. Um, all right, so when I'm thinking about that, that makes me think of some of the a couple other megas. Like say like Mega Gardevoir is probably around here. I think I'd put it a little bit lower in A
Yeah.
minus. Let's see.
I think Guard and Tyranitar are both worthy of this area. I know I'm very high on Tyranitar personally, but I think Tyranitar is very valid in this metagame
Yeah,
with everything that's been happening. I would consider putting Volcanion next though.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I think Volcanion is very good. I think, to be honest, it was like a little bit underused, but this Pokemon has been so good for so long in Natdex that I think it'd be like disingenuous to not have it around here. Um, excellent Mon, high defense stat, clicks Wisp, very good at doing that, and then also has Steam Eruption, which is one of the most broken moves in the game. Um, but yeah, I'm pretty high on this one. Um, generally good matchups, I think, into a lot of stuff. Um, seen a little bit less use because of the other use of Mons more. And honestly, I can't really completely explain why Volcanion hasn't been used more because I think it's really good right now. But it probably has to do with like pressure from some of the other like top tier Mons, like Zygarde being used a lot, um, or
It's one
maybe
of the
just a
best
different like
stack answers though,
we had a lot of like
which is really weird.
that's true. I think with Volcanion, I think what it kind of has to do is we had a lot of like players who are like newer to Natdex play this format in this tour. Um, And so Volcanion is a mon that like conventionally was like always thought of as like one of the best mons in the tier by like the player base, like the really active player base that plays Natdex. Um, and so I think that's why I'm like very high on it. So I think that like is a potential contributor to seeing less of it. There's less of those people like playing Natdex all the time. Um, but I don't think that's like a thing against either the players or against Volcanion. I just think like it was just a little bit of a different like usage trend that we saw. But if we look at this win rate here, it's actually pretty high. I don't know if the win rate's accurate, but I wouldn't be surprised if it is because I this Pokemon is very good in my opinion. So I'm gonna stick it here. I really do think like Wisp Volcanion is one of the better mons in this format. Um, but I do think Feeny is like a better water type, and then like um, Bolt is like something you got to consider on teams for a lot of the same reasons that you'll have a Volcanion for like a bulky mon, bulky filler. Um, okay, now what? Let's see. I think I want to put
Probably
Gardevoir
Gardevoir.
here. Yeah,
Yeah.
Gardevoir is
Gardevoir is really It's interesting to me because Gardevoir has kind of become the face of Trick Room as a mega, while also being good on some like mid-range tailwind teams and even side spam.
Yeah, there's so much
It's a
flexibility
surprisingly flexible one.
because it's mostly with like the speed tier. It has that Palkia speed tier that gives Palkia like um trick room usage in like some of the past like VGC formats at base 100, which is like fast enough to be naturally fast with zero investment and like still outspeed a few things, but also be like slow enough to capitalize off of trick room in front of faster mons. Um, and there's a lot of things you can do with it. Obviously, there's size spam. I used Calm Mind one week. I had fun running P2 plus Gardevoir. Let me find that team. Yeah,
I think a really underrated aspect of this mod that this has been one of the big beneficiaries of Stack Rising because Stack offers a really defensive, like physically defensive mon to bounce off of its special bulk as a Trick Room mon.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Because their typings are also like pretty complementary as well, I'd say. Um, but it also pairs really well
This one,
offensively with Zygarde. When I was talking about like Fairy plus
yeah,
Ground, Hyper Voice from Gardevoir is so strong. Like that's like one thing I think that makes like Zygarde really good is you can pair it with a mon like this, and I think that's what makes Gardevoir so good. Is that pairing these two together it's so difficult to like switch in if the speed advantage is up. And then like if you click Calm Mind, which is like a little bit of a less common set, but it's something that's been run in the past generations on this mod, you do so much. And then Psyshock gets around like all the AV mods too. So at +1 with like a Calm Mind, like you can hit Rilla for like 80% or something insane. Because this Pokemon's like raw special attack set is just absurd. Um, And yeah, you can also use it on Side Spam. I think it's the best like expanding force clicker in the format, and that's not even like half of what it does, in my opinion. I'm very high on this Pokemon, but it does get like out offense sometimes. It's not difficult to knock this Pokemon out. It feels very fair, but I do think it's in a good spot right now. Um, okay, let's see. Looking at in usage right now, we're around like Glamora level. Um, there's also Chi-Yu we could put here. Let's see.
oh, Tyranitar, why are you so low usage? You're so much better than where you were at in usage stats. Mm-mm-mm. I love me some Tyranitar, but I am inclined to say if we put anything else here, it might be Glamora. Glim was decently threatening in this tournament.
Yeah, Glim has a lot of good matchups. I'll toss Glim in here. Just a permanently like decent Pokemon. Um, where is it currently? It's in tier 3. Yeah, that's fair. Um, okay. There's a lot of viable Pokemon in this
Definitely,
format, by the way. Like we're not even these like the Pokemon below this are still really good. I'd say. Um, they're just not sitting at quite as high usage. Um,
yeah.
I'm surprised the DD usage is so high, but I don't think that Pokemon's good enough to justify it as up here. Um,
Indeed, he has a really nice claim to fame in not being weak to Marshadow's stabs. Like, Marsh isn't thrilled about having to click CC into it as a redirector, and it's just good utility compression. It clicks Expanding Force in this format, which is something it can't do in SV.
yeah, that's true.
So, it's a chill mon.
Mhm. What about King Gambit? I don't think this is quite where I would want to put King Gambit. It's like good, but I think B plus is probably a better spot for it. And I also just have not used it personally. Um,
This is like the biggest fall off from the current VR that's on the website to what's going on in the metagame right now. Out of like any mon that we've looked at,
DOA.
I've used King Gambit a couple times. Well, yeah, that DOA and King Gambit are the two big losers of this cycle.
Yeah.
I really just don't know how to feel about King Gambit because I just haven't seen it being run very effectively.
Yeah.
Like, it's undoubtedly solid, but even my own attempts to do stuff with it haven't been like. It's like, okay, it's a steel type. I can't really win con around it, and if I'm looking at a steel type that's good in Trick Room, I'm kind of leaning towards Stack right now, so I don't think I can rightly put it in A tier.
Yeah, fair. Um, I feel like there's more that belongs in A minus though. Just not sure.
I mean, I might be crazy for suggesting it, but the only mons that like scream they might belong here to me are like I've said Tyranitar, but maybe Iron Hands as well. Being a
Yeah,
fighting type is a lot more valuable in a world where stack attack is god.
I think Kansas is good enough to put it here, yeah. I didn't really use it too much this tour, but like I think it's very good. Um,
I've seen Mister Eat do some funny things
yeah.
with all the special attackers running amok. It doesn't love Zygarde, but teams are so over prepping for Zygarde right now that Hands kind of finds its
Actually
own
it
way
has
to
like
do stuff.
0 usage here. I can't put it on here, I don't think.
Mm,
That's interesting. I would have expected to see it more.
that's really weird. That's really weird. Okay, maybe I was wrong about it finding ways to play around Zygarde. Now I have it in my builder a little bit.
I do think Kansas is
It's
very
very
good though.
good in my builder.
But I can't like my gut would tell me like probably B, I guess. Um
Mm, I mean, yeah. I mean, if we went off of your builder, then maybe you could put Cartana here. But I don't know if you want to still be high on that mon.
I didn't actually use like Cartana that much for this tour. I don't think I brought it once.
Has that phase worn off?
I still like it a lot, but it's a Pokemon I'm going to use in test games. But then, like, I've also hyped it up too much to use it myself. LOL. Hmm. This is why I'm just having trouble with this because there is like a lot of Pokemon that I think are pretty usable in this format. Um,
Does Chi count here, or is it
I think it
like
does,
carried
to be
off of
honest.
Charizard's back?
To be honest, I think it counts here. I think um, like the bottom of A minus, but I just don't see it lower because it pairs so well with having Flutter in the format, and then Um,
And
we've
then
seen enough.
Zygarde.
We've seen it on Sun sometimes, and then like it pairs nicely with Feeny as well because you can use Specs Feeny next to it. Um, we have a lot of fire
Well, one
types
of
here, but
those
this is
mons
like
that could just one of the mons on the format that can also just kill stack
yeah,
at will. Doesn't have to
yeah.
worry about that matchup at all.
I definitely think like the more offensive sets are better on this guy in this format. I don't think like C can really get away with. Actually, no, Sash is something I used a lot of. Yeah, this belongs in A minus. I used a lot of Sash in test games and
Sash
in
is
like
valid.
seasonal. Um,
Oh, I know. Bagel was really high on this mon in this format when I was looking at his builder. He had that mon all over the place.
Yeah, I think it's very
Uh,
good. All right, let's move down to B plus. I
I
think this is going to make it a little bit easier. I think the TTR is
yeah, I
here
think
for sure.
this guy is so good if you actually commit time to building him out and understanding it. He
Yeah,
has such a good win condition.
Sand matches up well into the Sun stuff. Dragon Dance very strong. This Pokemon just has great stats. Um, It requires a little bit more of a commitment in the builder than it takes from like the other megas we put higher, but it's still a very excellent mega in my opinion. Um,
The reward for that commitment is getting to run Dracovish.
yeah, and then Dracovish is something we could also probably put around here as well. Um, hmm.
I mean, this is where I would put King Gambit probably now.
That's fair.
I'd look at King Gambit. I'd maybe look at Iron Hands. Deoxys maybe in talks. That one's a maybe. I'd also be full of shit when I'm talking at this point. We're in a little bit of a weird spot on the list here.
We're at a weird spot where like I think there's a lot of good mons here, but I have just like they're not like super like splashable. Uh, let's see. I'll put King Gambit here. Solid mon, Defiant. Um, fits well on like a couple teams, I guess. Knockoff is a nice move for it as well. I think you could put something like Gothitelle here as well.
Yeah, good fake out user. Good at maintaining board states in a format where switch-ins are pretty important.
Yeah, Shadow
I've
Tag
seen
is
it
just
on
excellent
every
ability.
banner teams.
Um,
How do you feel about Kieran Black? We've kind of not mentioned it yet.
I just have not seen it enough, really. I think it's like good, but like there's a lot of like specific meta conditions that prevent it from being better. Um, I think Marsh is the biggest one of those. Like I think Marsh punishes one of the
And
mons that Marsh hurts the most is Kieran Black, but I think it belongs around
it
here.
also doesn't like Sun. It doesn't love facing Sun. I from my own attempts to use Kieran Black,
Yeah,
because this one is weird for me because I have had a lot of teams that actually really want Kyurem as my ice type because they didn't want Chin Pao for one reason or another, but then the team started having a Sun problem.
yeah. I think like the AV set with like Icy Wind is pretty nice, because there's like
I know Snow. I know it's
a
good on
lot of
Snow as well
like it gets a lot of
with
value
AV.
off of just like sitting on being really bulky mod, clean Icy Wind, using the various coverage options it has like Earth Power to just make a little bit of progress. Um, let's see. Other Pokemon I consider around here like Goldengo. I think that mon's decent. Um, but looking at usage,
I really, I really have no opinion on Goldango. I That mon is an enigma to me. It doesn't make sense to me that it's on the VR. I saw none of that in Derby, and like I genuinely don't know if I even saw it used in a Derby game. Like, it's definitely not a bad Pokemon, but
there was a lot of
mm,
interesting treads, and I think the
it,
lack
it,
of Goldengo is one of them. Um, I think I'm going to move down to
it's
B
one
tier.
of the
There's a lot of things
better
that fit here. I think Dracovish would be
Vish.
around here.
Definitely
Um, this is an
good
excellent
with
Pokemon,
Tyranitar.
especially with
Good
Torn being
good
like
on
so good.
Kellen.
This is a great pawn on offense. It can pair really nicely with like Booster Flutter to click Icy Wind next to it and then get it a speed advantage that way. Um, also pairs well with T-Tar for Sand, right? Um, very good Pokemon.
It's
One of the
the
best
dragon
water types.
typing on Dracovish. The dragon typing does it a lot of favors because it makes it a water type that Rillaboom doesn't instantly ruin,
Yeah,
which is just such a massive thing in this format where Rillaboom's on literally half of the teams.
yeah, that's true. I think I put like Harflame around here. I think Harflame is like decent.
Best
No, I don't even.
Pokemon?
Nah, never mind. I disagree. I'm not going to put Harflame this high.
I would put Tapu Lele here.
Lele? Hmm. What about Lele and Indeedee?
Yeah, I think
I
they
rate,
can both go here.
I'll put Indeedee slightly higher, but I think they're like basically equal in terms of terrain setters. These are like you're using them with like Gardevoir, you're using it with like DOA, but I think the most common one is like Gardevoir, and it's used a lot without the terrain itself. So that's why they're apart because a little bit of a different dynamic here than
I
some
I
other formats.
I would say Indeedee probably pairs better with Guard and Lele pairs better with Deoxys just because Guard and Lele have the same typing. They kind of
Yeah,
overlap in that regard. So
yeah,
DO
I agree.
appreciates the fairy stab a lot more. We put Vish up here. We mentioned some other mons. Oh yeah, is this where we put Iron Hands? Or
Yes, but I'm gonna
is
put
the usage
Heatran first.
stats?
I think Heatran is like a mon that like I know I'm like abnormally high on, but I just think it's so good. Eruption Heatran is such a good Pokemon. It's so like threatening, um, in just a variety of situations. Because it just has such a powerful attack. And then the ability to Terra is nice. It matches up well into Flutter, which is helpful. It matches up well into Rillaboom. Like the only top tier mon it like does not match up well into is Zygarde. Everything else you look at up here, it has a good matchup. Rillaboom, Fluttermane, Jirachi, Kangaskhan, Mence. Okay, Kangaskhan's like a bit iffy, but you hit it pretty hard with Eruption. And then Mence, you just like Mence struggles to deal with you unless it's the good set Hydro Pump. Um, and then it like starts to change a little bit, but it's such like good top tier matchups across the board. I think, and I really think we should be seeing more of it. I think also around here is probably Blood Moon. Um, I think I'll put Blood Moon like a little bit higher. Um,
Crazy mon. Crazy mon in this format. So good for the Trick Room stuff. One of
I'm
the
actually gonna
best
put this at the
mons
top
to
of B
one of
because
the best stack answers
yeah,
in the tier.
and it did like obviously the stuff that makes it decent on offense and like SVA holds true as well, but Earth Power, well, just not Earth Power, just the fact you're like a bulky ground type, such high physical defense, Sack Attack can do shit to you. Um, and you can do stuff like AV, Sister and AV. I ran Combines um, with Z Blood Moon because with like Normalium Z Blood Moon, you can use Blood Moon, you can use the Z move, and then you can use Blood Moon again. And you get like 3 extremely high powered attacks in a row. Um, and so there's a lot of funny stuff you could do with this one in this format. Um, yeah, I'm going to start opening it up here. There's a lot of good things I think we haven't talked about yet. Um,
I would put one of the two Ogrepons here, to be honest. I think Ogrepon is valid enough as a redirector that one of the forms belongs in this rank, if not both.
which ones? Heartflame and Wellspring?
Well, yeah, Hearthflame and Wellspring.
See, my hot take is that Wellspring is the worst Ogrepon form in this format. I think
I
it's
think it got a
terrible.
lot better because of stack.
I just hate it.
Stack
There's so many
design.
water types that I would rather use, um, other than Wellspring. I'm like like extremely personally low on it. Heartflame is like all right, but I haven't really seen it a lot. Um, I think all of them are really like Wellspring has the most usage here, but like I just don't like its matchups into the top mons. If I'm being honest, um, it's probably fair to put it around here though. I'll put Wellspring because it has the highest usage, but personally, I don't think this Pokemon is very good. Um, but clearly, like
This
enough
one's
people are
biggest
using it
problems
to
in the
warrant it around here.
its biggest problems in the top matchups are Rillaboom and Mence. And well, there's nothing you can really do about Rillaboom. It's not like unplayable
It
there.
just feels like a
And
lower
Rillaboom
power
doesn't
level than the format in a way that like it doesn't in SV. Um, to me, it really
well, if
feels a
you're
lot of
running
the time like
speed on it, then yes, I agree.
it feels like it's struggling to compete with like the like the top mons power wise. Um,
I
we're
don't
putting
think it can
Wellspring here.
afford to run speed investment in this
I'm gonna
format,
put
is my hot
base
take with
Ogrepon here because I
Pokemon.
think it's like really excellent. Like Defiant Mon as well. We've seen a lot of that because it gets to hold an item, and I played against that in Derby. I saw it a couple of times. I thought about it using it myself a few times as well. Um,
For Cloak. Mon. Yeah, I don't know. You and I have different opinions on Wellspring. Because I don't run much speed on it in this format, and it makes a world of difference
well,
because
I
of how
don't
much
either.
bulkier I make mine.
I don't either. But my issue is just like it just feels like it has enough negative matchups that it feels risky to bring it, almost. But I
I
think like
definitely
it's still
don't
a
run
decent
grass
redirector.
slab on it in this
It's definitely the
format.
second best redirector. It's just I think the fall off from like Jirachi is really huge.
Technically,
Okay,
it's the third best on this list because of
DD's not a redirector. It's the
Indeedy.
size spam bot. Okay, moving on. Mungus, I don't think that guy's very
Hmm.
good. Lol.
I
Fergraf,
I could
Landorus.
consider
I'm gonna stop this.
Scizor.
I'm gonna stop paying attention to usage stats. I'm just gonna go off of what I think about the metagame. I'm gonna put Mew here. I think Mew is like really excellent fake out support. The
I could
it
agree.
has so many options in this format. I've seen like like Z transform with Imprison. I've used a lot of like
My
fake out
favorite
column
set.
buff tailwinds, like with rocks. Um, I think having fake out is just huge for this Pokemon. I think it's just you get so much more value out of like slotting Mew onto a team in that decks because it just gets you value. Um, I brought it twice in Derby, won both times. Um, let's see. Okay, that
Really
might
good
be the B
Gloomon.
list.
Are we not going to put hands here?
I don't think so. It just does not have like I don't know.
I mean, I can understand it. The only other two mons I'd gloss over real quick are DOA and Arcalodon.
Those are both meme material Pokemon in this format. I can't lie. Um, hmm. Yeah, DOA is fair. I'll put DOA here. I think it's like it's an inherently stupid Pokemon. I just think people have not like really found the right way to like abuse it yet. And then like the Derby metagame was very hostile to it, I think. But I still think it's a very strong Pokemon um, that is pretty uncompetitive. And I would not complain if it was gone, but like we also like have not seen much of it. You know what? On that note, I'm
Is
putting Eevee down here.
no comment.
This Pokemon is stupid. EVMZ is stupid. Ban EVMZ. I never want to see it again. Okay, that's enough
This
of that.
part,
Um, Cart, top of B minus. This Pokemon has consistently underperformed in every single tournament. In every single team tournament I've seen it in. Um, I really feel like this
yeah.
I really feel like this Pokemon is good. I've used it so much in test games. I have like a lot of teams with Kartana. But there was never like one particular team I was like excited about enough to like bring to Derby. Um, but I've messed around with several sets. I think like the Z move sets are really good on it. It's a good Z move clicker. It can click Fight Z or like the grass one. Tailwind as well. Scope lens is decent. Um, et cetera, et cetera. Um, let's see. Hands probably belongs here, I think. Fundamentally, very good Pokemon.
And I'm inclined to say Basque somewhere in this tier.
Yeah, I agree. But I'm going to put Blastoise. I think Blastoise is really excellent. Um,
Yeah,
this
Mega
is
Blastoise actually seeing a little bit of use in Derby as well as just the normal support set.
Yeah, but I think that the normal support set's a little bit better. You know what? I'm going to move that Blastoise up to B. I think this is extremely underexplored. And I rate it better than Wellspring. I can't lie. Um, Fake Out, Follow Me on the same set is just broken.
Pick
Like,
out, follow me, life do flip turn. It's a
yeah.
perfect set.
And then it has a cloak as well. It's just so good at compressing utility. Um, and I really think this Pokemon's absurdly underused. Like in this format, Rilla being good is obviously detrimental to it, but it's a lot less detrimental than when like Glide was stronger because Glide's not going to kill you really anymore, um, unless it's like choice
It
band or
definitely
whatever. Um,
is
and like
killing.
the like Glide not doing like that much damage to you, like not like Glide being weaker is just better for this mon because obviously it's priority, and that I think in Gen 8 Blastoise was like a DOU Pokemon that saw like a pretty good amount of success in DOU, if I'm not mistaken. But the only reason I even like know that is because I watched like 2 DOU games from like when I was looking at old DOU because I was just curious one day. Um, and so I've always been like kind of surprised it doesn't see use of like Gen 8 DOU, but I think the issue is just like Rillaboom Glide is so much stronger, and then like when that priority move like knocks you out, then your redirection is just useless. But in that dex, like Glide is weaker, and I think that helps a lot. Um, and it just fake out plus follow me. That's all I have to say about this Pokemon. Um, okay, moving on.
Celesteela, Gouging Fire.
Yeah, excellent typing for Celesteela. Just phenomenal. Matches up well into.
What a
There's a lot of teams that just like can honestly really struggle to damage Celesteela. Um, I don't think like
stack
in
attack a wall.
yeah, Stakataka just gets completely owned by Celesteela. Terra's also nice for it. Unfortunately, like the meta is like a little bit too offensive for like Leech Seed to be like really, really broken or anything. Um, I think Power Room's
Well,
also decent.
the
Um, but I think they're
if you
about the
run
same
Leech Seed
level.
on Steela, it becomes a really good Zygarde Fisher.
Yeah,
Like every Zygarde set can't deal with it if you run Leech Seed Wyguard.
yeah, yeah. That's facts. Um, oh yeah, Catching Fire as well. Good Howl Clicker. Without coaching in the tier, like that's the next way you can like do funny stuff like that. But I personally use Choice Band. I thought that was really fun next to Charizard. I think people should try it next to Charizard more because this Pokemon is absurd on Sun. Like the damage output you get, um, while having just like
I'm a
excellent
fire
natural
type.
bulk, and also just Howl. You could do that too. Um,
Sun boosted booster energy, gouging fires, 120 base power, heat crash, and sun. Just die. You just die.
yeah,
That is a meme calc machine. Is this where I suggest the funny mon?
no,
Does he even know what I'm talking about?
no, but I'm just gonna say no. Um,
Uh, uh. Okay, well, first I'll suggest Arcalodon, because I don't think it belongs in C tier.
I forgot something very important, guys. I'm gonna do something crazy. This Pokemon's broken. It is absurd. Like
It has so many good moves in this format.
Ice Beam hits so many things, and then you just get to choose your Terra Blast type, and it can just solve your team. Like your Trick Room team's weak to stack a little bit. Oh, slap on Terra Blast Water, no problem. You also hit Instant. Like you can run Terra Blast Fairy, you can Terra Blast Poison, all these different things. It's so customizable. This is like I would not want to run Trick Room without P2 personally. At least like Semi Room. Um, because you can pair it with stuff like Gardevoir. Um, I had like several teams I think with P2 that I like almost brought. I brought one of them. Um, literally carried the Pidgeot team because it just set Trick Room for Choice Band Zygarde. Um, but I
Yeah,
think this
yeah,
Pokemon absolutely
that
needs to
did.
see more use. Um, I know like it's a little bit crazy putting it this high, but I genuinely think like it's better than the ones I put below it. Um, in terms of how much value you get out of it per game. Because there's
And
not
there's no
there's no
fighting. There's
hands
no fighting
issue.
types.
Yeah, it's just Marsh. All the fighting types have been banned
And
except
March,
Marsh. And Marsh you could just tear out of and just bully it. If you're like Terra Fairy.
Marsh really does not want to click close combat if it's not killing.
Yeah, for sure.
Like that, if that mon doesn't kill with close combat, it's going to die, and then that's usually one of the most important checks to things on your team gone. Like there's a cost to using the most common fighting type in the tier.
Yeah. It just the bulk on this Pokemon is so critical for like a lot of teams because it's one of the few things that can almost like stick up to any offensive option in the entire metagame. It's very difficult to OHKO P2, and then like Zygarde being really good helps it because Zygarde's a very great semi-room Pokemon, in my opinion, because its speed tier is just right. It can provide value in and out of Trick Room, um, etc., etc. So I'm gonna put P2 really high. This might be controversial, but I don't care. I just like it a lot. Um, okay, back to B minus. Pokemon that are actually at that power level.
The
Scissor.
last hope of rain teams. Yeah, Scissor and Arcaludon are the two that stick out to me here.
Oh, I forgot Mega Camerupt. There's a lot of stuff that's easy to forget. That's a B Pokemon. Let's see.
Is it?
Yeah,
I mean, I guess
I think this is
it's
another
gotten a lot
Pokemon
more
that people are not using enough
competition lately.
because I really do think it's like obviously like Gardevoir has seen like more like an uptick in usage, but as a mega as
This
like
guy
a
really loves
pure Trick Room Pokemon,
I
this is
guess.
the full room Pokemon. Um, it just
It, it
the
does
calcs of this
it does
mon are
really like
crazy.
Rillaboom.
This Pokemon's very good in my opinion. It also pairs well with like P2, etc. And I think Stack you could use it with Stack as well, but I previously probably would have put it in like B plus, but the current Trick Room archetypes are not like quite as like conducive to using it all the time as they have been in the past.
I I helped the Guilt make a full room team that used camera up on it, and honestly, just the way that Rillaboom is so effective in this format and is such an incredible partner for camera up, yeah, I can justify putting it here.
Yeah. Um, oh yeah, Scissor. I was just thinking about that. I
And
can't put Mega Scissor higher than Mega Camera. Um, but yeah, this Pokemon's
Scissor is
decent.
the mega I use when I want to be different,
Yeah,
and it's pretty good at doing that.
it beats Flutter, it beats Rilla. Has does sizable damage with Sword Stance. Can really like take over games. But the thing is, like, there's a lot of good Fire type Pokemon. Like if you look at the number of Fire types we have up here, Camerupt, Heatran, um, Charizard, Volcanion, Chi-Yu, Incin, like there's so many different fire types you could use effectively in this format, and I think all of them are pretty decent. Um, and I think that really hurts Mega Scissor. Um, hmm.
Use
Also
close
around this
combat if
level
you
is
want
probably like
to.
Ninetales, Alola. Like Snow is definitely usable. Um,
Yeah,
I'd say probably
yeah.
Pelipper as well. No, I don't think Rain is that good actually. Um,
But we're not going to put our Arcaludon on here.
I think Arcalon's bad. I think it fell off in SV, and I think it was never good in Natdex. Um, it probably belongs at the bottom of B minus. There was something I wanted to put here. Oh yeah, Basque. Basque is very fundamentally still stupid, but the power level is higher, so
I
it just
would,
doesn't get to take over games quite as much, and so that's why it's down here. Um, Last
I would
Respect
move
should still
Basque
not
up a couple
exist.
slots here.
Yeah, I think it's better than Mega Scissor. And probably Gouging Fire as well. Okay,
I've definitely had my fun with that guy. Basque is so good on size spam teams as the water type. It's so threatening on those teams specifically.
yeah, okay.
I will suggest Volcarona. I
Yeah, this
might
is
be
probably
insane,
fair.
but Volcarona was so effective in Derby with the few teams that it was brought on, and I think it needs more respect.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is fair. I think B minus is fair for it. Um,
Insane utility compression slot that just happens to have a really good matchup in the top parts of the metagame.
yeah, for sure. Um, it just gets you like a lot of value. It pairs. It has several different like good partners as well. Um, is this where I put like Amogus, or do I save that for C plus? I genuinely think Amogus is really bad.
Uh, well, personally, I don't think Among Us is the same as Volcarona. I think it's a little under. Is that enough to put it down in C?
I think so.
Its typing is not as good in this format as in other formats. Spore is basically unclickable.
It's like the best C plus Pokemon. Also down here, I'm gonna put Zapdos. I think Zapdos is a really solid Pokemon, but like you have to be like very deliberate about when you're using Zapdos. You have to have like a specific team that's like wants Tailwind, it needs like immense answer, but it does its job well. It clicks like Z Hurricane, clicks Volt Switch as a pivot. I'm a big fan of the mon, but I don't think I could put it higher because I'm like the only one that's used it still somehow. Um, and it's also just not like super splashable or anything. Okay.
Should probably look at placing Landorus forms now.
Hmm.
Right? I think the Lando forms aren't unusable.
I'm putting
They're
Zeraora.
definitely good mons.
I'm putting Zeraora at the top of B minus. I think it's better than Cart. I used Zeraora multiple times in Derby, and I'm really like,
At best snarl clicker. That's
yeah,
all I gotta
that
say. Best snarl clicker.
it's just a fast fake out one. And its damage output is pretty decent if you just like slap on a Z move. You can handle Flutter. I also messed around with like Variant Z, um, which I think could be really funny, but for another
Cursed set.
time. Um,
Cursed asset.
it's fine, yeah. So on this Zard X team, I used AV, Fake Out, Volt Switch Snarl, hit HP Ice. And it's just very bulky, good pivot Pokemon. HP Ice hits a couple bonds for like quad super effective, which is nice. Okay, let's see.
Oh yeah. Probably look at Diancie with where we're at.
Yeah, I think
Diancie
DNC's fair
had a
here.
couple of it's still the matchup is clean.
Yeah,
It can
but
still
it's
roll you if you're not ready.
it's just not at a very high power level for the format. And I'm actually going to put DNC Mega here as well. I see it like somewhat similarly, because I just don't think like base DNC is very good. I think there's other options that you should be using. Like I think Stack Attack is a better like solo Trikumon, and I think that really hurts DNC in this metagame. Like the buff, like DNC was so good, right? Because like you have built-in Clear Amulet, but now Stack Attacker gets to do that too. It's slower. It has a stronger gyro ball. It can just sweep games easier. Um, and so I think Stack Attacker's like buffs have like really hurt DNC. Whereas Mega DNC is like also usable, but it's like
Mega
not
Nancy is
that good a
probably a
Pokemon.
decent alternative. It's probably a decent alternative to Gardevoir Mega on the tail end teams that it's been seeing use on. It has to worry about Rillaboom, but that's not completely unfixable in this format.
Yeah.
He plays Whimsicott.
Nope.
No
They put
liking that
Landorus
one.
and Whimsicott down here. Landorus Incarnate.
Lando T found dead in a ditch.
Yeah, I tried Lando T like multiple times, and I just could not find a way to like properly use it in this metagame. Every team I had with it just felt bad. Um, Entei probably belongs around here as well. Entei, Pelipper, Arcalodon.
Alternative Howl Clicker, Entei, E-Speed Clicker. Is this where you would put Serena?
Yeah, I think so. I think Zarina's a really nice mod in this format. Triple Axle, block priority, helpful on various teams.
It's a good Pokemon that actually is decent at answering Zygarde.
Yeah. Also, Mega Latios probably belongs at B minus just because it's the best recipient of like Baton Pass, which is so sad that we have to say that.
Yeah.
But I also had a pretty fun team where I was like clicking Combine, like recover this ball with it, and it felt pretty decent. Um, with like Aurasphere as well.
Yeah, 100%. Cornerstone probably goes in like C, right?
Yeah. I think Cornerstone is actually a pretty fun wand to use that I think is pretty decent because Sturdy helps it a lot, but it just has not seen like very much usage.
Oh, Como.
Oh yeah, Como is probably top of C plus or bottom of B minus.
I really like Como in this format as a fisher for some teams. Like sometimes I just have an extra slot in my team. I can put this in there and it'll auto win some games.
Oh, yeah, that's kind of true. It has a very high upside in this format. Um, let's see. Hmm. Okay, now down to C. Um,
Do I want to say Mega Swampert? That guy makes me sad.
I should put Venusaur up here. I use Venusaur in full games. It's definitely a C tier,
Right.
a C plus tier Pokemon, but I think it's better than Mega DNC. It's bulky, can take over some end games. Um, there's so much viable stuff. It's kind of hard to like really do this.
Well, we're kind of at the point in the list where things start getting pretty fringe.
Yeah,
And and the difference here is in SV, we were pretty well defined in what the super fringe stuff does. With Natdex, it's more like, yeah, that's been tried a couple times, but hasn't really been ironed out that much.
Oh, I also forgot Goldango. That's probably like C plus. Okay.
Yeah,
Goldango's probably too low. Um,
just a little too low. Um, I think we can put Coco down in C. Right?
yeah,
It's not completely unusable. I think Rising Voltage Bolt is very funny, actually. I just haven't been inspired to build it because Tapu Koko made me very depressed in the first couple of weeks I built this format. But I've seen a
yeah,
couple of ideas around Coco that work. Because its ability is very good. But setting Electric Train is just so nice. The mod itself needs to figure out what it's doing, though. IMO.
yeah. The problem is it's just like tricky to figure out what it even does, besides like enabling a couple of other mons. Um, I also forgot
I'm
Harflame.
still very tempted. Oh yeah,
C
I think
plus
all the
probably.
Ogerpon forms deserve a rank.
You know what? I'm actually going to put it down here. I don't think Harflame is very good. I can't lie. I'm sure it can do stuff, but like, I just have not seen it at all. Um,
Oh, we gotta put Smeargle down here. God damn it. Right.
yeah.
Unfortunately.
I'm going to put Landorus Varian. I think Smeargle's like C minus. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I wanna argue for that. I don't even want to put it on the list, but I kind of have to put it on the list because it can still do Smeargle things, but it's also kind of important on the EV team.
Entei's C plus, I think. Not bad, but not great either. It has
Dragonite
Howl
and
in
C.
Natdex, which is kind of nice, but like, meh.
Dragonite's got to be in like C, right?
Dragonite, yeah, I think it's like pretty decent.
I think we also have to rate Farigiraf. Farigiraf isn't actually on the VR right now, but it got enough usage in Derby that it probably belongs on the list now. Because like it's sitting here in front of us, and it is a Farigiraf. There's a couple of funny options in Natdex. It doesn't have an SV, like Sucker Punch if you're a crazy person. But it's still just a fundamentally decent Pokemon
What's that? Which one?
for a giraffe.
Yeah,
It was used enough in Derby that we should rate it.
yeah, it's pretty good, I think. But it's not like I'd use Arena on most teams.
Yeah. The main thing for Rig is setting Trick Room or being on Trick Room teams. Uh
I think that's mostly it, to be honest. Like,
I I have a couple of other things that I could list. Like I actually think that fucking Iron Crown belongs towards the bottom as an
yeah,
alternative E-Force clicker.
I'm just gonna
And I do
for
love
C minus tier. I'm just gonna say everything in tier 5 right now
yeah.
that we didn't list because they're all usable, but like,
The only other two mons that I really have any qualms for are Ferrothorn and Garmanitan.
yeah, and those are kind of fringe. I don't
Kind
know.
of cringe.
Anyways,
Oh,
that's gonna be that. I think. Let's get
we're
the
definitely
preview
in the
here.
weeds here at the bottom of the list.
Yeah.
It's like this is the point where the list starts blurring the line between mons that just do something on random teams that are key and mons that are like consistently usable.
Yeah. But anyways, just for a brief recap, because I know this was not exactly the most visual video, I'll leave like a timestamp for like this at the end. But in S tier, we had Rillaboom and Zygarde. These were two of the most used Pokemon. Zygarde's currently being suspect tested. And both of us personally feel that Zygarde's just absurdly good. And then in S minus, we had Fluttermane and Jirachi, a bit more supportive Pokemon than the ones in S. I don't think they're like quite as powerful. They're still very, very good and splashable, but I think the S tier is just a little bit more strong. Um, A plus, we had the two like strongest mechas. And Marshadow and Incin. Incin could probably be dropped to the top of A or where it is right now, but I think it's like in between either of those. And then we had in A tier we had Pow and Stack Attacka, two like pretty decent like meta calls at the moment. They both like match up pretty well into like the higher tier stuff. And then Torn, excellent speed control as always. Feeny, um, very great defensive beast that can be very flexible as well. Can be more offensive or defensive setup or like support. Then Bolt, excellent like bulky filler mod. And then in A tier we started to get like a little bit more like the purely like more offensive mons, I think is fair to say. That's not even true, but like Chiyu, Glamora, Zard Y, and then a couple of bulkier mons like Volcanion, Gardevoir as well. And then B plus, I had P2 because I think this Pokemon's really good and like the semi-room stuff that I've used a fair amount of recently. T-Tar, good solid sand Pokemon, the best sand Pokemon of all time, matches up well in the sun, as well as the other weathers that are a little bit more niche. Gambit, Gothitelle, Kyurem. Neither of these three have I used personally, but they seem pretty decent from what I've seen. Then at B tier we have Blood Moon, good into stack. Vish, excellent on like more offensive torn stuff. The terrain setters, Gardevoir is used more without them really, so that's why it's higher. And then DOA is down here as well. I also put EV because funny and very good. Blastoise, IMO, the second best redirector. At like purely redirecting, and DD is a little bit higher, but that's mostly for like terrain support. And then Heatran, another Pokemon I think is really good. And yeah, that's basically it. And then B minus has a lot of good Pokemon that should see more use. Trust. And then yeah. Anyways, thank you for watching. Bit of a longer one, but I kind of wanted to put this out since I'd done it with SV a couple days ago. Yeah. See you next time.